Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Harney and Sons tea. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Tulul? Probably not. This is the packet it came in, so if you could figure out how to read this, that's great. I believe it's French. I'm not always great at pronouncing French words, so I did my best. It is, I believe, a linden flower tea with other flowers, and I had a sampler. I am, you know, I am told that slightly, medicinal benefits or whatever. But what I'm really trying to do is get through a lot of my extra teas, which sounds weird, but I just have a good amount of teas that I should finish and either get rid of. Anything really old I got rid of already, but because I lost the cabinet in which I keep my tea, so I need to make space and I need to find space for the ones that I already have. I need to think things through. So maybe drinking as many as I can now that it's cold out, that's not that big of an ask. So we'll see what happens, and trying not to acquire too many new teas right now. Same thing with books, really, unless I absolutely run out of something that I absolutely love. But in the meantime, we will just have things that I have. And so, as you could probably ascertain, I am doing a tea and mystery video, which I haven't done in a long time, mainly because I usually only do one if I've read more than one mystery book in recent times, which I have. Only two, but still something. The last time I read anything in the mystery genre was in July, when I believe, unless I'm completely forgetting something, because that can happen. Um, I'm not sure if I think I finished it in July. It might have been August, who knows. But I read one of the Jane Austen mysteries by Stephanie Barron. Um, and I liked it. It was my third that I finished. And I'm completely reading them out of order. I read the first one first, and then I read one that was the penultimate in the series, and then I read one somewhere in the middle. And I enjoyed it, so I thought, well, I should keep going with this series. I have plenty to catch up on. But then I saw in the library that they had the final one, Jane and the Final Mystery. So I guess Stephanie Barron will probably be writing about other people solving crimes. I don't know. I don't really know that much about this author beyond some of these books. But anyway, and I'm sorry the glare is a little shiny today. I like these dust jackets. I like the sound of them from the library, but they're not always great with the light. But anyway, I knew exactly what that meant. Jane and the Final Mystery, especially because the one I read directly before this one, the one that came directly before this one, the penultimate, I love saying that word, is, was showing that Jane Austen was dealing with some illness, but it hadn't gotten to the point that it was absolutely hopeless. And in this book, you can really tell that she's had quite a decline. And I, of course, am someone who's read more than one biography of Jane Austen, but she died in 1817, in July of 1817, and this book starts off in, I think, March, or, well, early, and then it continues into March of 1817. So, yeah, you know that she's not going to be able to do much. So, and it's a little sad to get into that because, well, I've read plenty of books about her being sick, but never from, I know it's fictional, but never from really her point of view. Not exactly anyway. And I know that she dealt with a lot of pain, and that many have said in biographies and that it seems that it was so bad that by the time it came along, it was almost welcomed, which sounds terrible. But, so I was like, am I going to be able to read this and enjoy whatever mystery it is? Is it going to be hard? And it was a little hard because, she was constantly dealing with what they call bilious attacks and not being able to eat much. And after, taking a walk, which was one of her favorite exercises, she'd be completely knocked out, and yet still looking out for other people. Now, of course, what happened in this book mostly didn't happen in real life. So what happens in the series is taking periods of time where Jane Austen could have been at a certain place and putting her there and having her solve a mystery. So in this case, mainly she is teaming up with her nephew, who's called Edward in this book, but his actual name is James Edward Austen, and later James Edward Austen Lee, because many years later, he finally inherited a family fortune that in those days would require changing your name partially. And it's actually covered in this book a little bit because the relative in question dies in this book, and they were expecting the family to benefit, but they were quite disappointed at this time. But her nephew is in Oxford, I think, at this point, and he, relatively young, has aspirations to be a writer as well. I have read something that he wrote, actually, the actual nephew, because he wrote a memoir of Jane Austen, and that was technically in the Victorian era. So if you ever want to, in Victober, read a biography and you are still in the mood to hear about Jane Austen, that might be something to choose. But some have complained that it was a little too rose-colored, made her a little too dainty and Victorian. But I still think it was rather a decent biography, and definitely not a mean one, So actually, that's why I really want to read the biography of Charlotte Bronte by Elizabeth Gaskell. I started it and I haven't continued much in it, and so I would love to do a comparison. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? But then I'd have to reread that book. But anyway, the reason why this is brought up is because she finds out that a person that they both know in a school that Edward, as we're calling him, used to attend in the Winchester area, there has been a death, and son of a good friend of Jane's has basically been accused of murder in connection with this death. So the friend in question, of course, is, well, not of course, but is the sister of Harris Bigwither, who had proposed to Jane Austen many years earlier. He was a little bit younger than her, and at first she said yes. And then after a difficult night of regret, she said no. And that must have been a difficult decision, because had she married him, she would have had some financial stability, which is lacking in that family many times. So, but she, I believe, made the right choice. And it must have been hard, because sometimes, you think about, wow, family, whatever. And she was really good friends with his sisters, but it appears that she actually remained friends with the sisters. And as you can see here, she is visiting Winchester to help out with this, I guess you can call it, case, helping to find out what really happened. So I don't believe there's any indication that she went to Winchester at this point, but we do know in the history of Jane Austen that a month or so later she does move there with Cassandra, and I believe also the big sisters, and maybe also Martha Lloyd, I believe, their friend who had lived with them in Chawton, where she went under the care of a certain doctor until she died. This doctor features in this book. He's an important character in this book. So I think they just made an earlier connection for her to go, for her to be able to go to Winchester later. Otherwise, this could have explained why she ended up dying in Winchester instead of maybe going elsewhere or staying back in, Chawton or whatever. So even though, like I said, it can be a little hard sometimes to, to see how she deals with this illness, it also, it was a little bit of an intriguing mystery. It was, why would this son of her friend not be completely forthcoming about what happened on the day this other boy seems to have drowned or died in some way, been found in some water. The boy who had been killed was not a nice person, was a horrible, horrible bully, sociopath, or whatever you call it these days. So it's not like one of these tragic, no death is good, but it's not one of those, oh, it's so sad, such an innocent person dies, but it's still sad. Anyway, So anyway, Jane Austen helps to solve this crime with the help of her nephew, and also talking to certain people, and thankfully things get resolved in a pretty good way. And then there's an afterword that explains what happened to Jane Austen and her family after this, you know, basically closing up the series. So I don't want to get into exactly what happens because obviously spoilers, but it does incorporate the things that happen in the Jane Austen family, in the Austen family, and like I said, the finding out about her uncle's legacy and that disappointment. I've read numerous times that finding out that her family wouldn't benefit actually gave her a bit of a relapse in her health. Now, I don't know. We don't know how she died exactly. You can't really say retroactively what she died from. Some have said Addison's disease. Is that what they call it? Addison's disease? Anyway, and some have said lymphoma. Anything's possible, but she probably, no matter what, even with better finances, probably wouldn't have survived in that time period. So anyway, so if you can handle a little bit of sadness in, in a favorite author's coming to the end of her life, then you probably can. So I could. You might enjoy it. It was actually really well done. I enjoyed it very much. Anyway, so moving on to another favorite writer of mine, and that is Agatha Christie. There's a lot of people reading Agatha Christie right now, and I thought I would do so again in early December. There's the whole Christie's Missing readathon, which I usually only participate in insofar as I read a book by Agatha Christie, just whichever one I feel like reading. And I was leaning toward Miss Marple, so I picked At Bertram's Hotel. I used this volume. This is a book. I don't know if I've shown you these books. What's English? Before, but I have 3 of these, and I have to check to see which ones have, if there's any Poirot, and which ones are Miss Marple. I think most of what we have is Miss Marple, but I was generally looking for Miss Marple, and I realized that I didn't have as many as I thought in my collection. So, well, I was glad to find this one because I was in the mood for it. I have seen adaptations of At Bertram's Hotel, but so I kind of knew who to expect to be the whodunits, but I didn't remember enough to let it ruin my story for me. And I knew that it took place in a hotel in London. So for me, that's always appealing because I am a very big, in case you are new to this channel, I am a very big fan of reading about London. I mean, England in general, but London is my favorite. And since I couldn't go this year, reading about it is the next best thing. But anyway, so I also liked it because it is supposedly based on a real hotel. Some have said that it was based on Brown's Hotel in the Piccadilly-ish area, or some have said another one, I think it was called Fleming's or something like that. And I think that whichever one it was based on, it's obviously a fictionalized version of the hotel, based on what they write. But the hotel is really like a character in the book. It is a place where it seems almost like travel back in time. It's made to look a bit of an earlier time. So if someone, say an older English visitor, were to check in, they would find the muffins and the seed cakes that they may have missed from times past, and the way things were decorated. You might have felt like you were in Edwardian times, and of course that might appeal to someone like Miss Marple, who is quite up there in years. And I think this is written in the 1960s. There's reference made to the Beatles, which was kind of fun because I'm a big Beatles fan. So it's kind of, I didn't realize, I think, that Agatha Christie ever mentioned the Beatles ever, or I figured she must have known of their existence somehow because they were huge in the 1960s, but still. Anyway, so this tea's okay. It just tastes like herbal tea, But I think that she started writing Miss Marple when she was not super young, but definitely not an elderly person. And so even though she did a great job of writing Miss Marple, it might have taken a little more of an imagination Now she was a bit closer to being, well, she was elderly at this point, so there might have been a bit of a, even more of an understanding of nostalgia. And so that is the appeal to the English visitors, but apparently they also get American visitors who are catered to in different ways. And all the people that work there seem to anticipate your needs, and they just seem like something out of a movie. And this actually leads to more questions like how is this possible? And it actually does raise the curiosity of a certain police detective, and Miss Marple just happens to be staying there at this time. Now, first there's a case of a missing person who just, where do they go? What happened? Is it connected to any other things that have happened recently? And later on in the story, quite later on, there is a murder. And it's not the conventional whodunit, really, because the way it's set up. So if you really want that typical, people come here, they're talking, this, they're meeting up somewhere, and then someone dies, and the rest of the case is solving this mystery. It's not exactly that. It's you feel like there's a mystery that doesn't define itself for a very big portion of the book. And I will say my biggest disappointment, it wasn't like not it wasn't a dislike, but it took me from giving it a 5-star to a 4-star in Goodreads, that Miss Marple is not really the main investigator. She's there, she does help a little bit, but it really is this chief inspector who they nicknamed Father for some reason in this story, who does most of the work, who figures out most of the things. Miss Marple is just kind of there to, be almost like a witness, and to also be a little bit encouraging and fill in one or two small blanks. So this could have actually been done without Miss Marple, except it, in a way, I think that's good, because she was on vacation. She had chosen to go to London, and she wanted to do a little shopping. She went around the city, which I enjoy because, I get to go with her a little bit. So in a way, I feel like it is her way of being on vacation from being her own incidental detective, just happens to be on site. I don't know if that makes any sense, that she doesn't have to do as much of the work because she's on holiday. But I haven't read yet, I don't think I ever read it, which was A Caribbean Mystery, which I think is the other one where she goes on vacation, if I'm not mistaken. I want to see if she puts a little more action into this one, probably. Anyway, so that's in the same volume. I think they actually are backwards in terms of what came first. But, I don't know if you can see Freddie's paw. He's like right here. He's grooming himself, but he's a little bit camera shy lately. Anyway, I did enjoy it. It is a good study of, in my opinion, a study of nostalgia. She goes into, I think there's an indication of what Miss Marple's mother's name was too, because she refers to her mother and her grandmother being at a table talking, and her grandmother seems to address the other person as Clara. And I thought that was interesting, because it doesn't definitely say that Miss Marple's mother's name was Clara, but that would be interesting because that was Agatha Christie's mother's name. And also someone else's name that is talking right now. Someone else's mother's name. But anyway, so I always perk up my ears when I hear that name. And, but yeah, so I think in general, I have enjoyed the two mysteries I have read, Jane Austen and Agatha Christie. I mean, who can get more cozy than that? Jane Austen and Jane Marple. Lots of Janes. My cat, Jane Austen, is not anywhere around. Why? Anyway, no, she's in another room. She's mad because I took in a cat for one day as a trial period because I'm the neighbor. Long story short, they didn't get along, and it wasn't going to happen. It was a little sad because, it doesn't take me long to get attached to a young cat, but I think it's better off right now. JD was not happy, and I didn't get a chance to introduce them properly. Really supposed to introduce cats kind of gradually, and I just think it wasn't the right time. And honestly, I hate to be whining about my financial situation, but really, I can just about take care of 2 cats right now. So anyway, hopefully everything will work out with that cat babe, Anyway, can't worry about everything, but I'll let you know if anything ever changes with in my pet news and in my other types of news. But anyway, that's all for Tea and Mystery today. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any good mysteries lately. Let me know if you've read these two and what you thought of them, or any of the books in these series, because these are both basically series. And let me know if you want me to read more mysteries, even though I tend to read more in the cold weather. I wouldn't mind the encouragement. I have a couple more that I have lined up to read sometime soon, so that may just happen. Freddy's being really gross with his licking, you know. It's kind of nasty sounding when you hear it in the background, but you know, cats grew, right, Freddy? Oh, you can't see him. You can't see him. He's hungry. Anyway, I think I've taken up a lot of your time. I hope you've liked. If you did like this video, if you like videos like this, please like and subscribe and all the things. So for now, this is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and mystery-filled day. Bye.